They sat me near the kitchen, tucked away. From there, I watched my own son get married, peeking through a swinging door, hiding behind a tray stacked with shrimp cocktail. If you're listening, make sure to follow along and tell me where you're from. I was the one who paid for that wedding. Every flower, every chair, every single detail. Yet when the music began, when the speeches started, I wasn't part of it. Not even close. I kept a smile on my face, stayed quiet, and when the last crumb of cake was gone, I ended it all with a single phone call. There was no sign waiting for me, no name card, no warm hello. Just a folding chair with a paper napkin tossed on the seat, squeezed between a pile of dirty trays and a squeaky catering cart with a broken wheel. That was my place. I stood there for a moment, blinking hard, as the smell of marinara hung heavy in the air, sour and thick, clinging to the steam from the kitchen doors. I felt the oven's heat on my back, and something inside me twisted. I glanced down at my mauve chiffon dress, hand-stitched, delicate. I'd spent 3 hours getting my hair done that morning, 3 hours pretending this day might matter to me, too. But no one told me. No one said, "We've made other plans for you." No one even looked at me when I walked in. Not even Michael. He was too busy grinning, adjusting his cufflinks, letting Jessica's mother kiss his cheek like she was the one who raised him. Like she was the one who sat up every night when he had nightmares. Like she was the one who worked double shifts so he could get braces, when I had to choose between rent and his smile. I held on to my little beige leather handbag, the one he'd given me years ago for Mother's Day, back when he still called me Mama. My hands shook. I could feel it in my wrists, this faint hum, like electricity trying to escape my fingertips. The catering manager, a boy who couldn't have been older than 20, shuffled toward me with an awkward smile. They said you should wait here, ma'am. The bride didn't want any visual clashes with the theme. Theme? I just stared at him. He winced, looking back at the doors. The metal edge slammed against the wall with a sharp bang, and laughter spilled in from the reception, chased by music. You know, he added, for the photos, consistency and all. I lowered myself onto the chair. It creaked beneath me. There was a dark stain on the floor, maybe gravy. My shoes stuck a little when I shifted. I looked at my nails, painted soft pink, then at the cold chicken breast dropped in front of me on a chipped white plate. And the worst part? I said nothing. Not one word. Because it was his day. Because I whispered to myself, don't ruin this for him. Don't be that kind of mother. I told myself paying for it all still meant something. I pulled out the program from the church, printed on cream cardstock with elegant cursive. My name wasn't anywhere on it. Her father walked her down the aisle. Her mother gave the first speech. Me? I was just the wallet. The ghost in the kitchen. The woman nobody wanted in the picture. The door swung open again, and for a split second I saw the chandelier, the band playing, Michael and Jessica twirling under golden light for their first dance. He didn't look at me. Not once. I pressed my napkin to my mouth, pretending to wipe a stain that wasn't there. My eyes burned, and I told myself it was the onions from the kitchen, the steam, the heat. Not the betrayal. But it was. God, it was. And somewhere deep inside, something cracked. Quiet, small, like a hairline fracture in glass. The kind you don't notice, until the whole thing shatters. I kept my eyes fixed on the wall in front of me. There was a patch of peeling paint behind a fire extinguisher, and I stared at it so hard I thought I might burn a hole straight through. That little spot became my anchor, the only thing holding me together while a waiter passed by with a tray of crab puffs. Because if I let go, if I started crying, I wasn't sure I'd ever stop. I took one deep breath, then another. The chicken on my plate was stone cold by then. I didn't touch it. Later, someone set dessert in front of me. I didn't taste a single bite. I just looked at it, white and gold layers, her colors, her perfect vision. That's when I made the call. It was quick, direct. I didn't explain myself. 3 simple cancellations. The flowers for tomorrow's brunch, the second half of the band's payment, and the open bar that was supposed to run until midnight. My voice stayed steady, calm, almost detached. And when I hung up, there was no guilt. No regret. Just the first flicker of something I hadn't felt in years. Power. I looked down at my hands. They weren't shaking anymore. My heart wasn't racing. There was just this quiet hum, like an engine coming back to life. The door swung again, another burst of light, laughter, the sound of a world I wasn't welcome in. Let them celebrate without me. I had my own plans now. I didn't sleep that night, not even for a minute. I lay in the stiff hotel bed, still in my dress, staring at the ceiling fan spinning above me like it might unscrew and drop right on my chest. Part of me almost hoped it would. My hair still smelled like kitchen grease. The perfume of roses mixed with the sour scent of my sweat, humiliation clinging to me like a second skin. At some point I kicked off my shoes. My feet were swollen, aching. They'd hurt all night, but I hadn't dared take them off. Even in the kitchen, I needed to look presentable. Around 3 a.m., I sat up. The digital clock glowed red. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. I didn't check it. I already knew what was waiting there. Missed calls from Michael, from Jessica, a message from my niece. What happened? Everyone's freaking out. Instead, I opened the wedding budget spreadsheet on my tablet. I'd been keeping it meticulously for more than a year. I knew every cent, every change, every little upgrade Jessica asked for, always with that tight smile. And that word she loved to use, like velvet covering a blade, elevated. Linda, we just want something a little more elevated. That's how I ended up agreeing to hand-calligraphed invitations from some boutique Etsy shop in Vermont. That's how the venue shifted from the community church hall to a restored barn with chandeliers and whiskey barrels for decor. That's how the open bar turned into a custom cocktail menu, and the cake went from 2 tiers to 5. I paid for all of it. No one offered to split the cost. Not Michael. Not her parents. And I never asked, because I wanted him to have everything I couldn't give him while I was raising him. I scrolled through the transactions. My breath caught when I saw them. 2 charges I didn't authorize, just days before the wedding. A bar tab from a tasting event. An upgraded rehearsal dinner. Same restaurant where they stuck me by the kitchen again. My stomach clenched. I double-checked. It was my card. Used without permission. And then I saw her note on Venmo to one of her bridesmaids. His mom is covering everything. Might as well go big. Wedding vibes. This time, I didn't cry. Not a tear. I felt nothing. That strange, heavy kind of nothing that comes after pain has drained you dry. It was like my insides had gone numb, like every nerve ending curled inward just to protect itself. I reached over, turned on the lamp. The light stung my eyes. When I caught my reflection in the dresser mirror, I flinched. Mascara smudged under my eyes, the softness of my mouth gone sharp, my hair flat and crushed on one side from the pillow. I looked like I'd aged 10 years in a single night. But then something shifted. I pushed my hair back, washed my face, sat down at the desk, and opened my email. 3 messages. 1 to the florist. Cancel Sunday delivery. Balance withheld. Thank you. 1 to the band. Due to schedule changes, the second performance isn't required. Please consider this matter closed. 1 to the bar vendor. We're scaling back services. Cancel the second shift. Do not process the remaining balance. Polite, professional, but final. By the time I hit send, the sky outside had gone from black to bruised blue. I closed my tablet, sat on the bed, listened to the low hum of the air conditioning. For the first time in months, I felt like myself again. Not angry, at least not yet. But done. Done being convenient. Done being the wallet. Done being an afterthought. Let them figure it out. Let them scramble when the music stopped, when the bar closed, when the flowers never showed. And maybe, just maybe, they'd remember who made that wedding possible. The woman in the kitchen. The one they didn't want in the photos. The music thumped faintly through the wall, like a distant heartbeat. I sat in that folding chair with a plate of cold hors d'oeuvres and a Diet Coke from the catering cooler, telling myself not to listen. But I did. I couldn't help it. Every laugh, every cheer, every glass clink slipped back through that swinging door, reminding me exactly where I wasn't. A toast started up. Male voice. Probably her father, maybe Michael's best man. I leaned back just enough to peek through the crack in the door. There they were, lined up under that ridiculous floral arch I'd paid Tyler for. Gold chairs, floating candles, a custom neon sign glowing "The future is forever" in loopy cursive. I knew the voices even when I couldn't see the faces. Jessica's mom, Patricia, with that fake sweet tone of hers. "Oh my God, Michael, you are just the sweetest man alive. Jessica is so lucky. Then laughter, cheers. And there she was at the head table, Patricia, dripping in navy chiffon and pearls, posing like she was born into money. She wasn't. She'd met me 3 times before the wedding. Never once asked about my life, never once thanked me for covering the bills, never offered a dime. Next to her sat Jessica's father, holding court like some suburban king, his big booming laugh filling the room. Same man who'd told me at the rehearsal dinner, "We really admire your perseverance. Raising Michael on your own must have been tough." Perseverance. Like I'd hiked a mountain, not worked double shifts in scrubs so my kid could grow up without hand-me-downs. And there was Michael. My Michael. Smiling like a stranger. Sitting between her parents like he'd always belonged to them. I searched the tables for someone from my side. My sister Denise sat a couple rows back, next to our cousin Rachel. Neither of them looked my way. No one did. I wasn't part of the celebration. I was the problem they'd solved with a chair in the back and a door that swung shut. A server brushed past me, a young girl, probably still in college. She glanced at my untouched plate and gave this small, guilty smile. "Do you want, a refill or anything?" I shook my head. "I'm fine." But I wasn't. God, I wasn't. Every part of me ached. My feet, my shoulders, even my jaw, clenched so tight it pulsed behind my eyes. My heart sat heavy in my chest, like something rotten lodged there, refusing to move. I looked down at the plate. 3 olives, a slice of brie, a sad little triangle of toast. I hadn't eaten since breakfast, but my stomach was a fist, my throat a narrow pipe. I couldn't make myself swallow a single bite. I thought back to the seating chart. Weeks earlier, I'd asked Jessica about it, carefully, gently. "Do you know where I'll be sitting?" She gave me that tight, shiny smile. "We're still finalizing everything. Don't worry, Linda. You'll be included." I should have known. I did know. Deep down, I knew I was being managed. Moved like a prop. Invited for the checkbook, tolerated for appearances, never truly wanted. And the worst part? I let it happen. I said yes to everything. One small concession at a time. No speech from me, no mother-son dance. It might feel awkward. No photos before the ceremony, no mention in the program. Just a seat by the kitchen. Then I heard Michael laugh. That deep, rumbling laugh he used to have as a little boy, when I chased him through sprinklers in the backyard. A laugh I hadn't heard directed at me in years. Something rose in my chest. Not grief. Not disappointment. Rage. Quiet, steady, devastating rage. I stood. Walked toward the swinging door. Placed my hand on the edge. Pushed just enough to peek through. And there she was. Jessica. She saw me. She knew where I was, knew what she'd done. And she smiled. Not nervous, not apologetic. Calm, confident, like it was natural. Like I was exactly where I belonged. She turned to her bridesmaids, tossed her head back, and laughed. That's when I knew. This wasn't a mistake. Not some oversight. It was deliberate. She didn't want me there. And Michael let her. They both did. In that instant, something inside me shifted. Not broken. Repositioned. My place in their lives had changed, and I was done pretending I didn't see it. Let them have their spotlight. Let them toast. Let them drink champagne. They thought I was invisible. They had no idea what I could take away. The toast began while I was still standing at the door. Someone dimmed the lights, string lights glowing above, gold chargers shimmering on the tables. The mic squealed once, then her father's voice boomed, smooth and loud, like a game show host. To our daughter Jessica, and her perfect new husband, Michael. Cheers erupted. I stepped back. Behind me, the kitchen clattered, trays banging, voices sharp, a server arguing over table 12's gluten-free plate. I moved aside, leaned against the wall. The plaster was cold on my back. Garlic and hot oil thickened the air. Her father's voice carried through the door. When Jessica was little, she always told us she wanted a fairy tale. A prince, a castle, a happy ending. Well, sweetheart, today you got it. Applause. Louder. My breath caught. He was never there when Michael was little. Never there at 3 a.m. when I mopped vomit off the bathroom floor. Never saw me sewing buttons back onto his school uniforms. I remembered the icy nights I used to drive, miles and miles, just to take Michael to chess tournaments. None of that mattered now. The story was being rewritten, and I'd been edited out. I looked down at my hands, fingers blotchy, skin thin, trembling slightly. Cold air from the vent above prickled my arms. Then came Jessica's mother's turn. Her voice was syrupy, rehearsed. We're so grateful to be surrounded by so many people who love Jessica and Michael. And to welcome Michael into our family. He's like a second son to us already. Another cheer. Like a second son. Not a word about me. No thank you, Linda. No, we appreciate your generosity. No, this day wouldn't have been possible without her. Nothing. I bit the inside of my cheeks so hard I tasted blood. My feet ached, but I stayed standing. Then came the moment I dreaded most, the groom's speech. Michael stepped up to the mic. He looked radiant, strong jaw, confident stance, tailored suit I'd helped pay for. I'd seen him take his very first breath in a NICU unit. Now here he was, grown, glowing, a stranger. I just want to thank everyone for being here tonight, he said. His voice was deeper than I remembered, polished, practiced. I feel so lucky. Jessica, you've made me the happiest man alive. And to your family, thank you for welcoming me like one of your own. I truly feel at home with you all. And to everyone who helped make today happen, thank you. This has been the most incredible day of our lives. My throat closed. My name wasn't spoken. Not once. I had paid the venue, the catering, the photographer, the DJ, the linens, even that glowing neon sign. I'd even bought the dress Jessica wore when she placed her hand so gently on his arm. Yet to them, I didn't exist. The servers clapped. I didn't move. The band started up again. The dance floor filled. Someone brought me a slice of cake on a plastic plate. Vanilla with raspberry filling. Her favorite. Not mine. I'd never liked raspberry. I stared at the thin gold fork they gave me, steady in my hand. My mind flashed back to when Michael turned 10. He'd asked for chocolate cake with sprinkles. I'd worked 2 extra shifts just to buy the one from the bakery window. His eyes had lit up when he saw it. He hugged me so tight that day. That boy was gone. In his place stood a man who didn't even think to save me a chair. I set the cake aside. Waited until the last bite of dessert was served, until ties were loosened and icing wiped from lips, until the music swelled. Then I walked out. Past the servers, past the bar, straight through the side door. Outside, the air was cool, still, humming in my ears with silence. I took out my phone. 3 calls. The florist. The band. The bar manager. Polite, direct, no explanations needed. By the time I stepped back into the hotel, the wheels were already turning. Tomorrow's brunch? Cancelled. The late-night music set? Gone. Second bartender and cocktail menu? Erased. I'd stayed quiet long enough. Let them enjoy what's left. Let them feel the gaps, the absences. Let them ask questions. Call me dramatic, petty, ungrateful. I didn't care. They'd already erased me from the story. All I did was turn the page. The hotel room smelled faintly of rose lotion and something metallic. Maybe my skin, maybe the stress. I sat cross-legged on the untouched bedspread. The comforter still perfectly tucked since I'd checked in 2 nights before. And I hadn't cried. Not once. But something inside me had shifted. Not frozen. No, frozen things crack. I was hardening, tempered. The sun hadn't even come up yet when I reached for my purse and pulled out my phone. 6 missed calls. 2 voicemails. A dozen messages. Michael, Mom, where are you? Why is the brunch cancelled? Mom, seriously, this isn't funny. Jessica, I don't understand what's going on. Are you okay? Please respond. This is so childish. I laughed quietly, just a puff of air through my nose. Childish. I opened my banking app again. My fingers moved with the muscle memory of someone who's balanced a checkbook every Sunday for 30 years. The charges were still there, unauthorized, arrogant. My new daughter-in-law had used my card for a pre-wedding bar crawl, a spa day with her bridesmaids. I could see it in the receipts, bottles of champagne, manicures, facials, brunch for 8. No one asked me. No one even told me. The trust I'd carried in my chest like an old quilt, warm, familiar, suddenly felt shredded, like someone had cut it to pieces while I slept. I clicked over to my email. 2 new messages. The florist. We're disappointed by the sudden cancellation, but we understand. Per our agreement, no refunds for short notice. Fine. The band's manager. We were halfway through setup when your cancellation came in. Extremely unusual, but your message was clear. We'll leave the deposit as is. Also fine. I wasn't doing this for a refund. This was for me. For the invisible woman in the kitchen chair. For the mother erased from her own son's milestone. My stomach growled. I hadn't eaten since the day before. Food sounded impossible. Instead, I stood, pulled the stiff curtains open, and watched the sun bleed into the sky. Orange, then pink, then a pale yellow that made the world look unreal. And then I remembered. A little red folder stuffed in the back of my dresser drawer at home. Old papers, legal things, letters I never threw away. I felt drawn to it, like it had been whispering to me all along. I packed slowly. Showered. Washed off the perfume, the grease, the resentment. Dried my hair. Put on jeans and a button-down that still smelled faintly of lavender detergent. Checked out of the hotel without a word. The drive home was quiet. Tires humming against asphalt, radio static carrying songs I didn't know. That kind of drive where your own thoughts get loud. He didn't mention you. They all saw where you were sitting. No one did anything. When I pulled into the driveway, the rose bushes I'd planted 2 summers ago were in full bloom. I didn't stop to look. I went straight to the bedroom, opened the dresser, pulled out the red folder, and sat on the bed. At the bottom of the stack, under old insurance forms and faded photographs, was a letter. The envelope yellowed at the corners, postmarked from Arizona, the year my husband left. His handwriting. I remembered finding it weeks after he died. I hadn't opened it then. I couldn't. It felt like salt in a wound. Like letting him speak from the grave when I wasn't ready to listen. But now, I slid my finger under the flap. The paper was thin, his slanted handwriting instantly familiar. It started simple. Linda, I know you never wanted to hear from me again. But I need to tell you something. My pulse quickened. My hands shook just a little as I kept reading. Linda, I've been carrying a secret, and I can't take it to the grave. You deserve the truth. Michael, he isn't biologically yours. I found out years ago Jessica was already pregnant when we got together. I thought I could pretend he was mine, but he's not. And neither of us ever told you. I stopped. The room tilted, spun for a second, then steadied. I forced myself to keep reading. Apologies, excuses, regrets. Words that meant nothing now. Michael, my Michael, was the product of an affair. Another woman's child, left on my doorstep like a test I never signed up for. And I passed. God help me, I passed. Every scraped knee, every bedtime story, every night shift I worked to buy him sneakers, school photos, asthma medication. I passed with flying colors. And yet here I was, discarded, replaced, erased. But the letter gave me something new. A clarity sharp enough to slice through years of silence. I was done bleeding. I didn't cry. Not even as the paper shook in my lap, heavier than anything I'd ever held. What would be the point? My tears had already built Michael's childhood. Tears bought his shoes, his inhaler, his first car. Tears soaked my pillow when his father walked out, and again when Michael crossed that high school stage without once looking back to wave at me in the crowd. No. I had run out of tears years ago. What I had now wasn't grief. It wasn't heartbreak. It was clarity. I walked into the kitchen, poured myself a cup of coffee. Black, strong. Sat by the window, watched the neighbor's sprinkler tick, tick, tick across the lawn. A normal Sunday morning. Except I wasn't the same woman anymore. Not the woman who paid for someone else's fairy tale and got a folding chair by the punch bowl in return. Not the woman who swallowed it all in silence. Not this time. I picked up my phone. Started with the florist. My voice was calm, polite. I thanked them for understanding, confirmed Sunday's arrangements were cancelled. No explanation. I didn't owe one. Then the band. Same tone. Same silence about why. Then the bar service. Hi, this is Linda Carter.
Yes.
I'm calling to cancel the cocktail reception for the post-wedding brunch. No issues. Just a change of heart. Thank you. Click. 3 calls. 3 cuts. I could have stopped there. But I knew what was coming. I turned off my phone. Waited. Turned it back on 5 minutes later. 38 unread messages. 3 voicemails. Michael, Mom, where are you? The band didn't show. What the hell is going on? Patricia, Jessica's mother, I don't know what's happening, but this is incredibly unprofessional. People are asking questions. Then Jessica herself, Linda, seriously. Is this because you were upset about the seating? That's just petty. We had a vision. Don't ruin this. Petty. The word hit like a brand, hot and deliberate. But when I closed my eyes, all I could see was her smirk across the reception hall, knowing where I was, knowing what she had done, knowing I wouldn't fight back. Until now. I turned the phone off again. Let them spiral. Let the questions pile up. Let them feel it. The bar ran dry because I was the well. The music stopped because I was the note. The flowers never arrived because the roots were rotten. I cleaned the counters. Fed the cat. Felt more peace than I had in months. Around noon, the doorbell rang. I didn't answer. Let them knock. Let them sit in the heat of their own discomfort. Later that night, I posted a single photo on Facebook. Not the wedding, not me. Just the check I had written. Account number blurred. Signature visible. No caption. No explanation. Just proof. A receipt of sacrifice. And then I logged off. Logged off Facebook, logged off guilt, logged off the silence of pretending this wasn't betrayal. I didn't need their excuses or their spin. Let them sit in the wreckage. I wasn't going to save them from it. The silence that followed told me everything. No more messages, no more calls. Just this strange, stretching quiet, like the eye of a storm passing over my house. I could feel it. The tension. The waiting. They didn't know what I would do next. Truthfully, neither did I. But whatever came, it was going to be mine. Monday morning, I brewed coffee and sat by the window. No makeup, no earrings. Just me, the day, and the hum of the fridge. Michael hadn't called since yesterday. The last voicemail was stiff, defensive. You really made a scene, Mom. Everyone's talking. You embarrassed us. I don't know what you were trying to prove, but you crossed a line. I didn't even flinch. Because here's the truth no one likes to say out loud. You can give someone everything, your time, your money, your love, and still be disposable. You can build their whole world and still be told you don't fit the aesthetic. The betrayal didn't surprise me anymore. What surprised me was how little I cared, now that I'd stopped begging for their approval. That morning, I deleted his contact from my phone. Just the name. Left the number. I didn't need to forget him. I just didn't want his name lighting up my screen like it still belonged there. Around noon, I ran errands. Grocery store, post office, small things. Life kept going. In the bakery aisle of all places, I ran into Rachel, my cousin who'd flown in for the wedding. She smiled when she saw me, but there was hesitation in it. Linda. Hey. I nodded. She stepped closer, lowered her voice. Are you okay? I met her eyes. Were you okay, watching me sit back there? Her face flushed. I didn't realize that was on purpose. I thought maybe you. No. I cut in gently. You didn't think. That's all. Silence stretched. Finally, she said, I'm sorry. It was wrong. I should have said something. I nodded once. Thank you. She looked relieved, like that tiny bit of accountability had freed her. It hadn't freed me, but it was a start. When I got home, a bouquet sat on the porch. Carnations. Cheap. Already wilting. No card. I didn't bring them inside. Carried them straight to the trash. That evening, I checked Facebook again. The photo of the check had almost 100 comments. Old friends, co-workers, neighbors, people I hadn't heard from in years. Some were confused. Some outraged. Most understood. One comment stood out. This broke my heart, Linda. I've never related to something so deeply. Thank you for showing us we don't have to stay quiet. That was it. The beginning of something new. Not revenge. Not spite. Power. Reclaimed. Let them rage in their group chats. Let them spin their story. I wasn't replying. I wasn't explaining. I was choosing silence. Not submission. Control. And this silence was mine. It started with a drawer. A creaky old thing in the guest room, always half stuck, needing a hip bump to open. I wasn't even looking for anything in particular. Just clearing out the remnants of a life I'd been too tired to sort through. Somewhere between yellowed tax returns and expired coupons, I found it. That red folder again. I thought it was empty. But tucked so thin against the lining it was almost invisible. Another letter. No envelope. Just folded twice, handwritten. Same slanted scroll. Same name. My ex-husband's signature staring up at me like a ghost. It was dated 3 days before his death. Linda, if you're reading this, I guess the first letter reached you. Maybe you opened it, maybe not. I won't waste time apologizing again. I need to tell you something more. Something I couldn't carry with me. Something I should have said years ago. Michael wasn't just someone else's son. He was never supposed to be yours at all. When Jessica left him at my door, she didn't want to keep him. She was 18, terrified. She asked me to put him up for adoption. I couldn't. I didn't have the heart. I lied to you. I told you he was ours, a mistake from before we got married. You believed me. You raised him. You loved him as if he were flesh of your flesh. But the truth is, he wasn't even that. He was a stranger's child. And you made him your world anyway. I don't know how you'll feel reading this, but God, I hope you know that for all the things I did wrong, I was right about choosing you. You were the only one strong enough to be his mother. Not because of blood. Because of who you are. I didn't move. The words sat on my chest like a boulder. Not biologically mine. Not even accidentally mine. Chosen for me by a man who abandoned us both. Who handed me a child, then walked away like it was some kind of favor. My breath caught. My knees went weak. I sank onto the edge of the bed, paper trembling in my hands. 1,000 memories rushed forward. The first time I rocked Michael to sleep, his tiny fists against my shoulder. His first word, truck. The fever that terrified me so much I drove barefoot to the ER in winter. His science fair project that wouldn't erupt. His first heartbreak. His laugh when he got into college. Every moment I thought belonged to us. I had built my entire life around this boy. My identity around being his mother. And now I had to face something no woman should ever have to. He never truly saw me that way. He loved what I gave. Not who I was. Not really. If he had, he never would have let her put me in that kitchen. Never would have stayed silent. Never would have let them erase me. I laid the letter flat on the bed, smoothed it with my palm. It didn't feel like betrayal anymore. It felt like freedom. For 62 years, I had lived as someone who only existed for others. Wife. Mother. Provider. Ghost. And now, with this truth staring up at me in faded ink, I saw something new. Power I hadn't realized I had. Because I loved someone completely, even when he was never mine to begin with. Because I stayed when others ran. Because I built a family where blood had failed. And I could choose again. Starting now. I left the letter open on the kitchen table. Didn't hide it. Didn't lock it away. Let it sit in the open, a truth I no longer had to protect myself from. I walked through the house like I was seeing it for the first time. Beige walls. Faded graduation photos. The dent in the doorframe from when Michael rode his bike inside. I used to smile at that dent. Now I just stared. The house wasn't a home anymore. It was a museum of sacrifice. The worn armchair where I nursed him. The sewing kit I used to patch his pants. The pantry still stocked with honey bunches of oats, his favorite cereal. Even though I stopped liking it years ago. It hit me all at once. I didn't know my own favorite cereal. Couldn't remember the last book I read that wasn't a parenting manual or hospital paperwork. Couldn't name the last time I spent money on myself. I had lived so long as his mother, I forgot how to be Linda. How to be a person. I poured a glass of water. Sat on the couch. The silence in the house had changed. it didn't feel lonely anymore. It felt honest. My phone buzzed. Michael again. A long message, softer in tone. I don't know what happened. I've been thinking about everything. Jessica said she didn't mean to hurt you. I'm sorry if you felt excluded. If I felt. Not because they excluded me. Not because they erased me. If I felt. Still about him. His comfort. His distance from blame. I didn't respond. Instead, I picked up the remote, turned on the TV. A cooking show hummed softly through the room. My eyes drifted back to the letter. He wasn't mine. Not by blood. Not by law. But I had been his, until he made it clear I no longer belonged in the family he was building. And the ache I felt now wasn't for him anymore. It was for the version of myself I had abandoned. The woman who disappeared behind birthdays and Christmas mornings, staying up past midnight wrapping dollar store gifts in perfect bows. All those, you sit, I'll do the dishes days I never had, because no one ever offered. I had been his background music, his safety net, his reliable silence. But not anymore. That evening, I took every framed photo of us off the walls. Not out of anger. Not out of spite. Because it was time. Time to stop living in a shrine to a version of motherhood that required me to disappear. I boxed them carefully, wrapped the glass in old towels, labeled the box. Memories, not obligations. Then I made dinner, just for me. A recipe I'd once seen on a travel show. Lemon butter pasta with roasted cherry tomatoes and garlic. No chicken nuggets. No mac and cheese. Just what I wanted. I lit a candle. Played soft jazz. Set the table for one. Quiet, but not empty. The sound of reclaiming something I didn't know I'd lost, myself. The invitation list began on a yellow notepad. No glitter pens, no gold foil. Just names. Not people I had to invite, people I wanted to. Carol, my old friend from the ER who used to sneak coffee into my locker on double shifts. Mr. Henderson, my neighbor who always snowblowed my driveway before I even got outside. Dina from the bookstore, who asks about my week and actually listens. Nurse Janet, who once stayed late on her own birthday to help me finish a shift. None of them shared my blood. But every one of them had seen me in a way my own son never did. That was my new theme. People who saw me. It wasn't a wedding, wasn't a holiday. Just dinner. At my house. My table. No folding chairs. No back kitchens. I spent the next few days getting everything ready. Not to impress anyone, but because I wanted to. For the first time in years, I wasn't preparing for someone else's story. This wasn't about Michael. Wasn't about redemption. Wasn't about proving anything. It was about making room for joy, for me. I went to the market. Picked my own ingredients. Fresh basil, garlic, heirloom tomatoes. Not a single frozen appetizer in sight. I even bought a new tablecloth, blue with sunflowers. Something I might have chosen at 20, before the shoulds piled up like bricks around my life. The morning of the dinner, I woke early. Played Van Morrison, Stevie Nicks, Norah Jones while I cooked. My house smelled of garlic and lemon zest and olive oil, like warmth, like effort, like home. Carol arrived first, just before 6. She carried a bottle of red and a wide smile. You look amazing, Linda. And I did. Hair soft, gray at the temples but free. A linen blouse against my skin. No Spanx. No mascara ready to run. Just me. The rest trickled in. 6 guests in total. Laughter at the door. Hugs that lingered. Wine poured without asking. We ate at the table that once held folded laundry and Michael's math homework. Now it was alive with passing plates, clinking forks, napkins dabbed mid-laughter. And I laughed too. Really laughed. Someone told stories about bad first dates. Someone else admitted to stealing a pen from the bank every week out of spite. And somewhere between dessert and seconds, it hit me, this was family. Not assigned by blood. Chosen. Intentionally. Authentically. I didn't feel forgotten. Or managed. Or small. I felt present. Later, under the string lights I'd hung across the back porch, Carol raised a glass. To Linda, she said. For reminding us it's never too late to take your seat at the head of your own table. Glasses clinked. I laughed softly, and I meant it when I raised mine and said, "To finally being seen." The knock came the next day, just after noon. Not loud. Not urgent. But steady, like he knew I was home, and wasn't going to leave until I opened the door. I stood barefoot in the hallway, watching his silhouette through frosted glass. Michael. It had been a week since the wedding. 7 days of silence from me. 7 days of unraveling for him. I opened the door slowly. He looked the same, but not really. The suit was gone. So was the glow. He wore a wrinkled t-shirt. Dark circles under his eyes. His mouth tightened when he saw me, like he'd rehearsed 10 different openings and forgot them all at once. "Hi, Mom." I didn't say it back. I stepped aside. "Let him in." He hesitated, then walked past me. The house was clean. Quiet. Sunlight streaked across the living room floor. On the mantel, the photos were gone. Every last one of him. He noticed. His eyes flicked to the empty spaces. "Where are the pictures?" I ignored the question. "Sit down," I said. "Come." Flat. He obeyed, sinking into the armchair across from me. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, he sighed, dragged a hand through his hair. "I didn't come here to fight." I nodded once. "Good. He shook his head. "I don't understand what happened." One minute everything was fine, and the next you're canceling things, posting checks on Facebook. That stung. He didn't ask how I felt. He didn't say I'm sorry. He wanted an explanation. I stood, walked to the hallway closet, pulled out a box, and set it gently on the coffee table between us. "What's this?" he asked. "Receipts," I said. "Every single one from the last 12 months. Venue deposits. Dress fittings. Caterer down payments. Even the extra dance floor you wanted. Remember that?" His eyes moved across the papers, but he didn't touch them. Then I placed the next item on the table. The letter. His father's handwriting, unmistakable. I didn't speak while he read. I just watched his face. Confusion. Recognition. Disbelief creeping in, slow and heavy. Finally, he looked up, voice cracked. "You knew?" "I do now," I said. He swallowed hard. "So, you're angry because I'm not." "I'm not angry because you're not my biological son," I cut in. My voice steady, sharp. "I'm angry because I raised you, Michael. I gave you everything I had. And when the moment came for you to honor me, for you to stand up and say, 'This woman made me,' you sat down." He looked away, silent. "You let them push me into the kitchen," I continued. My voice didn't shake. "You watched them humiliate me, and you said nothing. That's what broke me. Not your DNA. Not the money." His reply was barely above a whisper. "I didn't think it would matter." Jessica said. She said it would look better for the pictures. For the aesthetic. I didn't think you'd be hurt." I laughed. Cold. Brief. "You didn't think." "Exactly." I walked to the mantel. Picked up an empty frame. "This used to hold a photo from your kindergarten graduation. You had a missing tooth and marker on your shirt. You ran straight into my arms afterward." I set the frame down, face first. "I'm done holding on to versions of you that no longer exist." He flinched like I'd slapped him. "Mom." "No," I said, firm. "I'm not your backdrop anymore. I'm not your bank. I'm not your afterthought." His jaw clenched. He stared at the floor. Finally, a slow nod. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "Too little. Too late." I closed the box, handed it to him. "These are yours now. Take them. Every receipt, every record, every reminder of what you chose to overlook." He hesitated, then took the box. I walked him to the door. At the threshold, he paused. Looked back at me, searching for softness, for a crack. "You always said I was your whole world," he murmured. "You were," I replied. "And now I'm finally mine." Then I closed the door. The house was warm with laughter. Real laughter, the kind that fills your chest, crinkles your eyes without you noticing. Garlic and rosemary drifted through the air. The table was dressed in blue and sunflower yellow. Mismatched plates. Cloth napkins folded like little fans. A single candle in the center, not for show, just because I liked the way the flame touched the silverware. My guests were in the living room, wine glasses in hand, voices overlapping. Mr. Henderson was in the corner, telling a story about locking himself out of his house in his underwear. Everyone roared. Carol wiped tears from her cheeks from laughing so hard.
And me?
I was barefoot in the kitchen, holding a glass of wine, smiling. Not waiting to be called in. Not hidden behind a door. Not forgotten. I was hostess. I was present. I was seen. I plated the last dish, roasted vegetables with thyme and sea salt, and carried it out to the table. As I set the dish on the table, someone clapped. Chef Linda strikes again, Carol teased with a grin. We sat, passed the bowls, poured more wine. Somewhere between the second helping and the last bite of cornbread, Carol lifted her glass once more. I think we should toast, she said. Everyone nodded. To what? Sarah asked. Carol turned to me. To choosing yourself. And to knowing when to stop giving to people who only know how to take. Every glass lifted. And this time, I raised mine fully too. I stood. My hands steady. My voice clear. I looked around the table, faces not bound to me by blood or obligation, but by choice. By respect. By love. To the mothers who stayed quiet for too long. To the women who gave everything and were told it still wasn't enough. To the ones asked to sit in the kitchen after building the dam house. This is for us. May we never sit down again, unless it's at the head of our own table. Glasses clinked. Someone cheered. And I sat, not in the back, not hidden, not exiled, but in my seat. My place. Michael never called again. And I didn't need him to. The people who mattered were already here. The next morning, I woke to birdsong and sunlight spilling through my window. No regrets. No weight in my chest. Just peace. I made coffee, sat on the porch, my robe fluttering in the breeze. My roses bloomed wild and bright in the garden. I wasn't someone's backdrop anymore. I was the main character in my own life. And finally, that was enough. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you feel like it, share your story in the comments.